rating the 2024 Super Motocross riders from worst to best, the 450 edition. This is on a scale of 1 to 10, and I'm taking into account if it was their rookie year, how they did in Supercross, Motocross, the playoffs, if they were hurt at all this year. I'm taking everything into consideration, and just like the 250 class, I am not doing all the riders because that would take me forever. But also remember, this is just what I think. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. And if you guys enjoy this, make sure you guys hit that like and sub button. All right, so the worst rider that I have is Christian Craig. I gave him a 3 out of 10. He finished 23rd in Supercross. He finished 8th in Motocross and 20th in SMX playoffs. And honestly, Craig just struggled the entire year, man. In Supercross, he never cracked the top 10. He got hurt in Supercross, which caused him to miss all the rounds after Glendale. In Motocross, he struggled at the very beginning of the year due to that injury. But then he started to pick it up towards the end. He captured a lot of 7th places, which is huge. And then for SMX, you guys don't even want to know, man. He struggled. We want to see Craig healthy. I think Craig, once he's healthy, is a guy that's battling for that 6th to 8th spot in the 450 class, whether that's in Supercross, whether that's in Motocross. I think that's where he is, and that's why I have him so low, because he struggled, and we expect great things from Craig, but we just kind of didn't see it. Obviously, he was hurt, and that kind of played a factor, and that's kind of the reason why I have him so low. He's on factory Husky at the time, and we expect to see really good riding, but we just didn't really see it. I do know that he is going to start racing next year, so maybe that change of teams, change of scenery will help him out tremendously. As you guys know, he won at Star in the 250 class. I expect him to do extremely well. I expect him to battle for that top 8 in Supercross and Motocross. I don't know if Craig can get a win. Maybe. Possibly, if all the dominoes fall, possibly, but I think 6th to 8th spot next year is a really good solid spot for him. But yeah, man, I really wish to see just him healthy, because once he's healthy, man, he's a really good rider. So the next rider that I have on the list is Justin Barcia, and I gave him a 4 out of 10. He finished 8th in Supercross, 14th in Motocross, and 9th in SMX playoffs. And honestly, I think we didn't get to see the great Justin Barcia that we normally see, because he struggled in Supercross tremendously. He had a stretch there where he was outside of the top 10 for 5 races in a row, and you don't really see that at all. He only had 4 top 5s throughout the season, and you know Barcia, I mean, he's a top 5 guy. We expect him to be in top 5, and we just didn't see it at all this year. But for Motocross, the 2 knee injuries kind of plagued his season. He missed rounds 6 through 11, but before that, he was actually riding pretty good. He had multiple different 6th places in there, but that's still not the Barcia that we're used to seeing, right? So injuries definitely plagued his season throughout the entire year, which is kind of why I have him kind of low, because without those knee injuries, I think he would be battling for top 5s, whether that's in Supercross, whether that's in Motocross. I don't know what's happening with TLD Gas. I don't know just yet. But for next year, if he can get his health in order, expect him to be battling for top 6s, in my opinion. I think that's where we slot him, right there with Anderson, Justin Cooper, Ken Roczen. I think that's where we'll have to slot him. But it's unfortunate that he was hurt, man, because a healthy Justin Barcia is awesome to watch. Now, the next rider might be a lot of your guys' favorites, but I have him kind of low, all right? And this is Ken Roczen. I gave him a 4 out of 10. He finished 7th in Supercross, 28th in Motocross, and 6th in SMX playoffs. For that 7th in Supercross, you got to remember that he did go out late in the year with the knee injury and the leg injury that occurred at Nashville when he crashed in the whoops. That spectacular crash. That was insane, man. But before that, I mean, he did get a win in there. He had a bunch of different podiums, but he also had a couple races outside of the top 10, which we normally don't see him do. And then for Motocross, as you guys know, he didn't race it really. He did 1 round at Unadilla, and then he did 1 round on the 250s, which sucks, man. We want to see Ken Roczen race Motocross. I think he's extremely good at it. But I feel like the last few years, we just haven't seen him do any of it. I know last year he came in for a High Point during Jet's undefeated season and almost beat him. Just 1 round in, and he almost beat him. Can we get a full season of Ken Roczen? Will he be battling for wins in Motocross? Yes. Will he win a championship? Most likely not, because you have Jet and Chase there and Tomac. But it's still awesome to watch him race these guys, because he brings a different excitement to the sport that I think everybody loves. And honestly, I miss him during the outdoor season, man. He's so freaking good. And then for SMX, he didn't do that bad. He finished 5th for the first round. He finished 6th for the second round. And then he finished 7th for the last round. He actually declined there in the SMX series for 6th overall. But Ken Roczen is one of my favorite riders. And it just sucks to see that we might never see that Ken Roczen of old. Yeah, we might see him win one round throughout the entire year if the dominoes fall correctly. But it just sucks, man, because Ken Roczen, before he got like that nasty injury on the Honda, he probably was going to win a lot of titles. That's just what it is. But for me personally, this year for him, 4 out of 10. I hope that he comes back next year. There's rumors that he might be going to Yamaha. I don't know if that's accurate. If I don't know, or if he's saying with Suzuki. I do know that Suzuki now has an electric start, so that's progress. But if he can come back healthy next year, I expect him to be battling for podiums, battling for wins, at least in Supercross. And hopefully he does more outdoor motos because we want to see that. So the next rider that I have on the list is Dylan Fernandez. And yes, I definitely butchered that last name. Please do not judge me. Every time I say it, I think I say it a different way. So yeah, please don't judge me. You guys know who we're talking about. I gave him a 5 out of 10, and he finished 12 in Supercross, 7th in motocross, and 11th in SMX. And yes, I did rate him above Ken Roczen because I expect Ken Roczen to do much better than Dylan. But he rode solid, man. He's not on a factory team. He's on that Honda team. I think it's Firepower Honda, if I'm not mistaken. To be fair, first year with the team, first year ever for that team having a 450 guy. And just like Triumph in the 250 class, I think he did exceptionally well. Could it have been better? Absolutely. I mean, he probably could have done better in motocross, especially in supercross. I mean, he is a supercross champion in the 250 class. But overall, I expect him next year, if he's on the same team, which I think he is, to be battling for more top 10s, maybe for some top 7s in supercross. I don't know if he can get a win. I don't know if he can get a podium. I think the dominoes, I keep saying this, but the dominoes have to like play out just perfectly for him. But motocross is another story. You guys know he's a 450 motocross champion, all right? If he can figure out that bike and if he can get some good starts, I expect him to be battling for podiums. That's just what I kind of expect from him. Overall, I think this past year on that team, being a brand new team for him personally, a brand new program for that team, I think they did pretty good. All right. I think they did a really good job. They tried to make every single round, which is huge. And yeah, got to give it up to Dylan, man. So the next guy that I have on my list is Captain America himself, Eli Tomac, and I gave him a 5 out of 10. He finished 4th in Supercross, 21st in motocross, and 3rd at the SMX playoffs. And honestly, he had a really good year coming off of injury from that Achilles last year. But we saw kind of that old Tomac where he kind of struggled in Supercross in different rounds. He did win one race. He had a bunch of different podiums, but we kind of expect him to win more than just one race, or at least for me, even coming off that Achilles injury, I think that we expect him to be a little bit better. And then for motocross, as you guys all know, he tore a thumb ligament at the end of Supercross, which caused him to miss a bunch of the motocross season. He missed the first 9 rounds, came back for Budds Creek and Ironman, and did really good. But yeah, I gave him a 5 out of 10 because, one, he got hurt. We expect him to do the whole entire season. His Supercross season was kind of fluky. A lot of races outside of the top 5, which you don't really kind of see from Tomac for the past few years. We all can say that he is one of the championship contenders, and him struggling in Supercross, getting hurt, missing outdoors, I mean, that plays a huge factor. I mean, and thankfully he is somewhat healthy, and he's going to have somewhat of a full off season where he can train and come back swinging for his last year. According to him, this is his last full year. I don't know if he's going to do select rounds after that, but I expect him to be battling for the Supercross championship, the motocross championship, and that SMX championship later on next year. We want to see the old Tomac battle Jet and Chase and Hunter and everybody else. We want to see that for sure. So the next rider that I have is actually Eli Tomac's teammate, and that is Cooper Webb. I gave him a 5 out of 10 as well. He finished 2nd in Supercross, 35th in motocross, and then 5th in the SMX rounds. I think for Cooper Webb, one thing that kind of surprised me was him getting 2nd overall in that Supercross championship. I didn't really expect that, to be fair, but he rode exceptionally well. He had multiple different wins. I remember the one win versus Chase, where it came down to the last corner, which was so freaking exciting. But then he also got hurt. I mean, he had that thumb injury, but he actually finished out the season to take home that second place. But he missed a majority of motocross. As you guys know, he got 35th overall. And that is just because he came back for Unadilla and then re-aggravated that injury in Moto number 2. It's just like Eli Tomac. We expect him to be battling for that championship, which he did in Supercross. That's why I kind of have him high. But then we also kind of expect him to be battling for that top 3 spot in motocross. And we didn't see that at all because of the injury. I kind of also expect him to be battling for top 3 in SMX. That's kind of main reason why I have him kind of low. And with Tomac is like those injuries plagued their season. And we kind of expect them to be battling for championships. And one for Tomac, we didn't really see it. I mean, we didn't see it at all in Supercross, at all in motocross. A few spots in SMX. Cooper Webb, we did see it though in Supercross. But not in motocross and not in SMX. So, I think they had a mediocre season, both of them, to be fair. And that's why I kind of, rated them right next to each other. So, the next rider that I have is Malcolm Stewart, and I gave him a 6 out of 10. He finished 10th in Supercross, 6th in motocross, and 17th at the SMX playoffs. And honestly, Malcolm had a really solid year. He made all of the rounds, which is huge. He also raced motocross for the first time in a while. For Supercross, he did battle just for that 7th through 10th spot every single weekend. I kind of expected him to be a little bit better. But to be fair, he had some bad luck throughout the entire season with just weird crashes that happened. And then for motocross, he rode really solid, man. He had a bunch of 7th places in there. He had a top 5 at Budds Creek at the very end of the year. And it's just awesome to see him race the entire season, because in the past, we never really got to see that. We would see him race some supercross and then miss motocross due to injury or anything like that. But it was awesome to see him race the entire year. He was very consistent in that 7th through 10th spot. For next year, I kind of expect him to do a little bit better than what he did this year. I expect him to be battling for that top 7 spot in Supercross, maybe that top 7 once again for motocross, and then especially better in SMX, not 17th overall, but battling for a top 7, 8 in SMX. So the next rider that I have on the list is Aaron Plessinger, and I gave him a 6.5 out of 10. He finished 11th in Supercross, 3rd in motocross, and 4th at the SMX playoffs. And honestly, that 11th place in Supercross doesn't really give him justice on how good he was riding, because he was battling for top 5s and he got a win in there. He got on the podium, but he did miss 5 rounds at the end of the season. But he did come back, and he did the entirety of the motocross season, which is why I prompted him to be a little bit higher than the other guys. And he was battling for top 3s the entire summer. You know what I mean? So I think AP rode amazing. I expect him to do this next year and even be better in Supercross next year. I expect him to be top 3 in Supercross potentially. I think he's finally starting to find his groove on that KTM. And it's honestly awesome to watch, man. AP is one of the GOATs. He's friends with Doc, so we gotta freaking root for him, all right? But no, AP is awesome, and I'm expecting big things next year. I really am. So the next rider that I have is Jason Anderson. I gave him a 6.5 out of 10. He finished 5th in Supercross, 5th in motocross, and 10th at the SMX playoffs. And honestly, Jason had a really solid year. He had his highs and lows in Supercross. He occasionally got on the podium, but he also had a stretch there where it wasn't pretty. He had a couple outside of the top 10s. And then for motocross, though, he picked it back up. He was very, very consistent, always battling for top 5s, occasionally battling for top 3s. And I think this is the Jason that we just got to get used to now. But the reason why I put him at 6.5, similar to Aaron Plessinger, is because we expect him to be here. We expect him to be in that 5th or 6th spot, and that's exactly what he did all year. But I also expect him to win a few races, and he did not do that at all this year. Yeah, he got on the box in Supercross. Yeah, he got on the box in motocross occasionally. But we expect him to do way better, right? We expect him to win multiple rounds. We expect him to be on the box consistently. And that just kind of didn't happen this year. I expect him to do that next year, right? We expect him to be battling for that championship at the very beginning. And hopefully he's still there towards the end of the year, whether that's in Supercross or motocross. I think Anderson is an amazing rider, and I think he's capable of winning. So I'm excited to see what he can do next year. But this year, more of his whole season was kind of highs and lows. But yeah, for me, I think 6.5 is a really solid number for him. All right, so the next rider that I have on the list is the first rookie for me, and this is Justin Cooper. I gave him a 7 out of 10. He finished 6th in Supercross, 4th in motocross, and 8th in SMX, and that's a really solid year for a rookie. Justin rode honestly really good in Supercross. He was right around that like 7th through like 10th spot throughout the entire year, which is kind of what we expected as his first year on the 450. I thought possibly he can get in there and maybe get some like top 5s, which he did get a top 5 at Birmingham. But then like I knew for motocross, this is where he was going to absolutely shine. And we definitely saw that throughout the entire year. He had a bunch of different podiums. He only had one race outside of the top 10. That's incredible. And that was Moto 1 at Budds Creek. And that's, if you guys remember, that's where he crashed into Hunter. Yeah, I think Justin Cooper had an amazing rookie year. I think for Justin next year, we expect him to be battling it out for top 5s in Supercross, potentially also battling it out for top 5s in motocross, occasionally maybe getting a win in motocross, getting on the box in motocross. I think that's what we can expect from him next year. I know he's going to be on Star next year, so I expect pretty good things from him. All right, so the next rider is my favorite rider, and you guys probably should already know this, but this is Chase Sexton. I gave him a 7.5 out of 10. He finished 3rd in Supercross, 1st in motocross, and 7th at the SMX playoffs. And Chase had a weird year, all right? Supercross was not good. He did finish 3rd overall. He did get 2 wins in there, but he also had some weird races in there where he got like an 8th, a 9th, a 22nd. That was when he crashed at Nashville. So he had like a weird season in Supercross where we expect him to be on the box kind of every weekend, but him and that KTM was not gelling whatsoever in Supercross, and he complained about it a lot. You guys saw it all over social media. But hopefully they can figure something out for next year because they're going to definitely need it. And then motocross, you guys saw what happened. Jet went out and then he just put on a show, man. Starting at Southwick Moto 2, he went on a crazy win streak. He went on to win like 7 races in a row, which is insanity. It's obviously not what Jet did the year prior, but it's still freaking solid, all right? So he had an amazing outdoor season. And then for SMX, I expected better things. Then again, probably I shouldn't have expected that because of how bad he did in Supercross. And it just sucks to see, man, because we thought for sure that Chase was going to go in there and potentially win that Supercross, like SuperMotocross championship, the SMX playoffs bullshit. But it just didn't happen. I said this in, I think, my review pod that he is very unlucky at winner takes all. Like we saw that in multiple different occasions now. Last year at the Coliseum, a couple of years ago at Paula versus Tomac, and then obviously now in this winner take all at LA, but or Las Vegas, I should say. And yeah, we just sucks to see because I love Chase. I want him to do good, but I'm kind of terrified. I'm kind of terrified of next year because I don't know how he's going to do in Supercross if he was struggling this bad and he was struggling in SMX. Like they didn't find anything and now he's hurt with his hand situation, shoulder situation. Like I don't know how much of an off season that he's going to get. I'm kind of terrified and I'm kind of afraid what's going to happen. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to have hope. All right. I expect him to go out there and win multiple different races, be on the box every single weekend. And that's kind of what I expect for him. But that's why I have him at 7.5, even though he got 3rd in Supercross, even though he won motocross. He's at a 7.5 because we expect him to be 1 or 2 in all 3 series, and he just didn't do that. But he did win a championship, and he rode great in motocross. So that's why I kind of prompted him to be a 7.5. I could potentially see where you guys say maybe he's a 7, maybe 6.5, just because we expect him to be dominant, and he just kind of wasn't during Supercross and SMX. But hey, this is my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. All right, so the next guy that I have is the second rookie of the class, and this is Hunter Lawrence. I gave him an 8 out of 10. He finished 9th in Supercross, 2nd in motocross, and 2nd at the SMX playoffs. But I did put him ahead of Justin Cooper because he did finish 2nd in MX and 2nd at the playoffs. Yeah, he had a worse Supercross season than Justin Cooper, but I think that 2nd place in motocross, holding that championship lead for a while, just kind of shows that like he's going to be really freaking good. Like, I didn't expect Hunter to be this good this early. I expected him to be right around that Justin Cooper speed and kind of battling with Justin Cooper throughout the summer. And I also think he surprised everybody else with how good he was. And then backing it up with the SMX playoffs, like going in there and winning a round, like that's huge, man. And so I think Justin Cooper had a really solid year, and I think Hunter Lawrence actually won up that, and that's why I kind of put him as an 8 out of 10. We should expect great things from Hunter. I don't know about Supercross. Maybe he can find his groove in Supercross, but motocross next year, we should expect great things. All right, so the last rider that I have, and you guys already know who this is Jet Lawrence. I gave him an 8.5 out of 10. He finished first in Supercross, 9th in motocross, and first in the SMX playoffs. And I put him at an 8.5 instead of like a 9, just because, like, if I went with the same ratings as I did for Deegan, who got a 9, he finished second in Supercross and first, where Jet finished 9th in that motocross season. He should have won it. Let's be real. He probably should have went 1-1-1 and probably got a 10 out of 10 here. But since he got hurt and since he missed like a bunch of that motocross season, I had to knock him a half a point. But I had to keep him in that 8, that 8 range, just because he won 2 championships. Like, I'm scared for the competition next year because Jet is already looking like he's in his prime, and he's only been in the 450 class for 2 years, or a year and a half, I should say. That's crazy. Okay. Yeah, everybody should be terrified of him for next year. He's probably going to go out there and sweep everything once again. I'm hoping that he doesn't. I got my boy Chase, but it's going to be tough. All right. But you know, Jet is amazing. He rode phenomenal, but since he missed half of that outdoor season, that's why I had to knock him down a little bit. Next year, I expect him to be right around the same or even better. But yeah, those were my ratings. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure you guys hit that like and sub button. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. And we'll also do this every single week, so we have an actual like average at the end of the year to show you guys like who was actually the worst. I'll probably do like the factory guys just to keep it simple, unless like a non-factory guy gets in the mix, we'll add him to the list. But for the factory guys, I think that's the way to go. But no, I appreciate anybody stopping by. Thank you guys so much for the love on yesterday's video for this, man. It did insane. So thank you guys so much. Be on the lookout for the next video, and we'll catch you guys back here very, very soon. So I'm out. Peace.